Hey everyone, we here at ScreenCrush are rewatching every film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Up this week is Thor. What holds up? In this movie, Thor somehow looks even cooler than he did when drawn by Jack Kirby, Walter Simonson, and Ron Frenz. All the stuff where Thor swings his hammer, throws it, twirls it, and flies with it is incredible. At least for us comic book dorks. The opening battle with the Frost Giant shows off all this stuff, and the movie's barely 15 minutes old at that point. The scene is also so dark that it's borderline invisible, but that's another issue. The world of Asgard is impressive. It's beautiful and majestic, the sets are opulent yet alien. The costumes are faithful to the spirit of the comics, but also believable in 3 dimensions. And the stuff Thor does with Mjolnir is so cool. The gag when he just lays the hammer on Loki's chest is ingenious. Even the sound design is impressive. The uncanny as Mjolnir pierces the sky, or the inhuman when the destroyer fires an energy beam from its face are like a comic book come to life. What doesn't hold up? Okay, so you know how I said the world of Asgard is impressive and beautiful? The world of man is the exact opposite. It's small, phony, and cheap. It shows just how far Thor has fallen when Odin casts him out of Asgard. He's gone from the most glorious realm in the universe to East Bumbleville, a town populated by 35 movie extras in the middle of the New Mexico desert. But even if that was the filmmaker's intention, they overdid it. The town is way too tiny to play a believable community. It's just a perfectly groomed drag in the middle of the desert. It looks like the fake city on the backlot tour of the old Disney MGM studios. You keep waiting for an earthquake to hit and then a tanker to spill a bunch of water out into the street. The only plausible explanation is that director Kenneth Branagh ran out of money midway through building the town and went, it'll have to do. And some of this town's residents are just as flimsy as its storefronts. The primary human hero in the film is Jane Foster, an astrophysicist who meet-cutes Thor when she hits him with her car. Twice.
What? I'm so sorry. I swear I'm not doing this on purpose.
Everywhere Jane goes, she's trailed by Dr. Eric Selvig, another scientist, and Darcy, their intern. Darcy's role is comic relief.
This is going on Facebook. Smile.
But Thor provides his own comic relief when he's confused by the customs of Earth.
Another!
So it's a lot of jokes on jokes, but instead of making things funnier, they make many interactions feel forced and written.
The answers you seek will be yours once I reclaim Mjolnir.
Mjolnir? What's Mjolnir?
Coolest foreshadow of future Marvel events. Can I say none? I'm gonna go with none. There are 2 big teases in Thor. One is pointless, and the other one is downright confusing. The first is the Marvel Cinematic Universe debut of Hawkeye, who briefly appears as a guy with a bow and arrow waiting for orders to shoot Thor. Jeremy Renner appears, aims, does absolutely nothing, and then leaves. He doesn't even show up with the rest of S.H.I.E.L.D. when the Destroyer attacks the town. So what's the opposite of an auspicious debut? Right, a Hawkeye debut. The post-credits scene is also frustrating. Nick Fury shows Dr. Selvig the Tesseract, the MacGuffin of the next Marvel movie, Captain America: The First Avenger. Loki appears over Eric's shoulder and prompts him to speak, apparently controlling his mind?
Well, I guess that's worth a look. Well, I guess that's worth a look.
But not 5 minutes before, we saw Loki die, falling from Asgard into a black hole. Selvig and Loki don't even have any scenes together, so when did he find time to infect his brain? Best Marvel Easter egg. The first Thor comics Marvel produced were by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. In their conception, Thor was the alter ego of a mortal man, a doctor with a bum leg named Donald Blake. Blake discovered a walking stick in a cave, and when he struck it against the ground, he transformed into Thor, and the cane became Mjolnir. Later, we learned that Odin had turned Thor into Donald Blake, erased his memory, and put him on Earth to learn humility, which is not unlike the events in this movie. There's a nod to this origin when Dr. Selvig bails Thor out of S.H.I.E.L.D. custody, and he claims the Asgardian is a troubled colleague named, you guessed it, Donald Blake.
What is this?
Oh. My ex.
Final verdict. There's a weird contradiction at the heart of Thor. It's a pretty good Marvel movie, but it would have been much better if it wasn't part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The whole film builds toward this grand sacrifice by Thor. He has fallen in love with Jane, but returns to Asgard to defeat Loki and then has to destroy the Bifrost, the rainbow bridge that connects their worlds, to save Jotunheim. Doing so, we're told several times, would cut Asgard off from Earth forever. Thor would never see Jane again. This is a noble gesture and proves Thor's character growth from selfish child to mature leader. But the emotional impact is blunted by the final credit of the film. Thor will return in the Avengers. Plus, a second later, there's Loki, defying death and influencing events on Earth. So why did we go through all that stuff? The film is its own worst spoiler. And this is the downside to the MCU. It's wonderful that characters can cross over, but its episodic nature sometimes robs endings of their finality. Otherwise, Thor is slightly better than I remembered. It has an assured sense of self. Branagh brings Shakespearean grandiosity to the battle for the throne of Asgard, and Hemsworth, Hiddleston, and Hopkins all deliver convincing performances. One hallmark of Marvel, then and now, their films are always extremely well cast. Hemsworth's Thor voice is a little more mannered than in later films.
Brother, whatever I have done to wrong you, whatever I have...
He over-enunciates at times, but that works for the character. The longer he stays on Earth, the more he loosens up and adopts human speech patterns.
I'm not Banner's friend. I prefer you.
Banner's friend!
I don't even like Banner. I'm into numbers and science and stuff.
And the score by Patrick Doyle is lush and romantic. It's one of the better pieces of music in the MCU. It's fun to look back at Thor now and compare it to the just-released Black Panther, another film about one family's struggle for control of a fantastically advanced kingdom. There are a lot of parallels between T'Challa and Thor. I hope Infinity War finds some time for those two to exchange notes. Oh, your brother's a jerkhole? My cousin's a jerkhole. And speaking of jerkholes, next time on History of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Nazi stand-ins. What do you guys think of Thor? How does it hold up with the rest of the franchise? Let us know in the comments. And if you're finding us for the first time, be sure to click that subscribe button.